He's the ultimate car guy, a conversation with Bob Lutz on 10 years since the automotive bankruptcies and what he thinks the future holds. And journalist Soledad O'Brien on why Michigan and Detroit will mean so much in the upcoming presidential election. Today is Sunday, August 18th, 2019. This is Flashpoint.
Hello and welcome to Flashpoint. I'm Sandra Ali. Devin is off this week. Friends, family, and colleagues gathered to say goodbye to longtime Oakland County Executive L. Brooks Patterson this week after decades in office. His passing certainly marks the end of an era in county politics, but the tributes and remembrances for Patterson came against a backdrop of discord and disarray among the many who wanted to replace him, even temporarily. Resignation, rescindment, interviews, infighting, and in the end, a Democrat. Ferndale Mayor Dave Coulter has the county's top job. Political passions are what brought journalist Soledad O'Brien to town this week. Most experts agree the next presidential election will be decided in states like Michigan, and that outcome will be determined in large part by turnout in cities like Detroit. So she came here to talk to Michiganders about what's motivating them and disheartening them in the current political climate. My conversation with Soledad is coming up. But let's begin with a conversation Devin had with Bob Lutz. He's up first this morning on Flashpoint. It's been 10 years since General Motors and Chrysler filed for bankruptcy. It was a time of crisis for the industry and the city of Detroit. Devin Scillian recently sat down with legendary auto executive Bob Lutz, who spent most of his storied career at each of the big three. Lutz reflected on that difficult time a decade ago and where the industry is now.
General Motors, from having been really the most powerful corporation in the world for so long, does it strike you as surreal that it ended up there?
Well, you know, that was part of the problem. It was the feeling of, oh, GM is so big and powerful, nothing can ever happen to it. And that was the same attitude with the UAW. Yeah, they say they can't afford it, but we've heard that one before. And they're so big, nothing's going to happen to GM. Well, you know, when things happen, they happen. And we've seen cities go bankrupt, and nothing is too big to go Chapter 11. And at the end of the day, yes, it was a big surprise. And as Mitt Romney says, he didn't like the government bailout. It should have been a private Chapter 11. Well, I mean, he didn't realize. Of course we went to the banks. Of course we went to private institutions. And when we went to the banks and said, hey, we need a few billion to tide us over, they just turned their pockets inside out and said, we're in worse shape than you are. And so at that point, the government was really the last resort.
In fact, that was part of it really was this perfect storm. It came right during the financial collapse.
It was a collapse of a financial and economic collapse of a magnitude really not seen since 1929. And of course, at GM, and I'm sure Chrysler did the same thing, we carefully planned financially. In our forward projections, we even baked in a recession and said, well, we'll probably have a recession with about a 15 to 20% reduction in demand, which is what most recessions usually are. But nobody counted on 55 to 60%, and sport utilities basically ceasing to exist in the marketplace. The combination of the radical switch to small cars on the part of the consumer because of the $4.30 gasoline, the rapid switch to small cars in consumer desire, and coupled with the total almost elimination of demand for sport utilities and full-size pickup trucks, which was what was keeping the American car industry afloat. That was a devastating combination. It was not survivable.
10 years later, we're back at really cheap gas, and the automakers are again relying on the profit centers of SUVs and trucks.
Well, they're relying on them because every effort to sell passenger cars and small cars meets with a total disaster, and the public says, thank you very much, we don't want those. And I mean, the American public does have a pretty short memory when it comes to fuel shortages. I don't think we're going to have one in the future because thanks to fracking, the U.S. is now largely self-supporting, and in fact, I think we're a net energy exporter. So we're no longer at the mercy of the Middle East, which is a good thing both for national security and for gasoline supplies. And I think we can reliably figure that gasoline is going to stay in about this price range.
We would appear to be falling behind the Chinese when it comes to electrification at the moment. I guess the question is that a race that we need to be trying to win? I know you've always had a certain skepticism about where in fact, I've always remembered you saying that years ago, because I drove a Volt for a while, which was, I loved it. But you pointed out nobody was impressed with a high-functioning electric hybrid sedan. It should have started with an SUV.
Well,
then
sure,
people
that would have been better.
Would have been different. But where are you on electrification right now?
I still believe it's the long-term future of the automobile. I mean, I sometimes miss on time periods because sometimes I say 15 years when I should say 25 or 30. But one thing is for certain, your grandkids will be transported electrically. And to the extent that they can still drive, they will drive electrically. But it's going to take longer than the media suggested because it's just not cost efficient, not cost effective right now. The plain fact is, it's the reason that Tesla is losing money. They cost more to build than what you can sell them for. And the problem is the cost of the battery pack and all the other components. Now, I know that General Motors and others are working feverishly down the short-term average cost curve to try to get more efficiencies in battery construction, have more suppliers bidding for the business, and electric motors and control systems will become a commodity as opposed to really specialized things. So the cost will come down, but it's going to have to come down quite a bit before EVs can compete on a cost basis with a conventional four-cylinder engine and automatic transmission. That's just going to take a while. The reason the Chinese are electrifying faster than we are is because their government subsidies for the purchase of an electric vehicle are off the chart. They were in Denmark too, which made Tesla almost the #1 selling vehicle in Denmark. Then the government said, whoops, can't afford that anymore. And it's interesting with electric vehicles, the minute the government yanks the subsidies, the sales go way down, which means that at this point, people still have to be bribed, use the term loosely, to buy an electric vehicle. And the manufacturers are making a financial sacrifice to provide the public with these things. So financially, they still, and everybody always gets so upset when I say this, but it's the truth. Financially, they still make no sense. Someday they will, but today they don't.
Let me go back to the bankruptcy because I wanted to get your thoughts on that horrible moment, I think, for the auto industry, watching the automotive CEOs sitting before Congress.
Yes, that was one of the most shameful chapters in automotive history. And there was some PR genius who advises CEOs how to behave, who told them, don't talk back, don't ask questions, don't push back on anything, just keep nodding your head and bow your head in shame and stare at your feet. I thought that was the most ridiculous advice ever given anybody. And at Lee Iacocca's funeral, somebody asked me a related question, and I'll tell you what, if Lee Iacocca had been in front of that subcommittee, he wouldn't have taken that advice. He would have been constantly saying, excuse me, Senator, but with all due respect, your question implies something that simply is not true. Let me set the record straight for you. That would have been Lee Iacocca. And I think GM, if they wanted the rules obeyed. It was a good thing they never let me anywhere near those hearings.
The other thing that became clear through those hearings, though, was a lack of understanding on the part of a lot of important people in Washington about how the auto industry works and the way that it threads its way through so much of the American economy.
You're absolutely right. I mean, during when I worked for Lee Iacocca, he would frequently send me to Washington to meet with some senator or some influential congressman or other to discuss trade issues. Well, trying to explain the Japanese cost advantage, not due to us not doing our jobs, but due to exchange rates, because the yen was artificially set at a very low level. That gave the Japanese the equivalent of a $4,000 per unit cost advantage. You can't overcome that with smarts and efficiency, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I had to go to Washington and I talked to these guys and their staffers. And at the end it was, well, thank you very much for coming in, Mr. Lutz. It's been nice talking to you, but I just got one word of advice for you and your colleagues in Detroit. Stop complaining and start competing. And that would be the outcome of those meetings. And you'd walk out of there shaking your head and think, these guys don't get it. But it was the same mentality that said GM is too big to go bankrupt. There was a general hubris in Washington. We're so big and powerful. What do you mean unfair trade? Let the others sell their stuff in our country. It can't do us any harm. Our corporations are so big and so powerful. And there's this totally mistaken image of the health of American industry. They didn't see the Koreans coming, the Japanese coming. They apparently didn't register that the Japanese were cleaning out one American industry after another. So yeah, and all you have to do is look at the parking lot. I mean, you look at the congressional parking lot, it's nothing but foreign cars. Audis, Mercedes-Benzes, BMWs, Lexuses, they're too good to drive an American vehicle.
What would have happened, do you think, if they had just let both Chrysler and General Motors fall of its own weight?
Well, frankly, I think the next one to go would have been Ford. Some people say, well, no, Ford would have zoomed into the vacuum. Well, they didn't have the capacity to zoom into the vacuum, and so many of the suppliers would have immediately gone Chapter 11.
What would it have done to the city of Detroit, do you think?
Well, devastating. We probably the city still wouldn't be pulling its way out of it.
Yeah, hard to imagine what might have happened without the bailout. Fascinating. Well, coming up, my conversation with journalist Soledad O'Brien. What's bringing her to Detroit next?